Thanks. And before I get started, I didn't come up with the title, but it certainly encapsulates everything that we're actually going to talk about today. So hopefully everyone's excited. So as you mentioned, I'm Michael Fasillo, and I spend my day helping customers become more cyber resilient. And I do that across their cloud, containers, databases, SaaS, and obviously traditional workloads.
And I'm Matt Erickson, and I do whatever Mike tells me to do because he's my boss. But no, seriously, I do the same. I help our customers be more resilient. Basically I work with both customers and your AWS SAs to help solve some of your hardest data challenges.
Awesome. So just a quick agenda. We're going to take you through how to take your Amazon and hybrid workloads to become more cyber resilient. And that involves preparation and response to threats that may compromise your cyber resiliency. And we're going to make sure that we talk about that from the standpoint of cost optimization. Obviously, being in the cloud, we have to take cost into consideration, so we'll cover a lot of that facet. And then we're also going to look at some infrastructure as code, so that in the event you do need to recover, you could do it at massive cloud scale. So those of you who are not familiar with Commvault, we are the leading enterprise leader of data protection, and we are also known for our end-to-end cyber resiliency. And we do that all through our single unified platform called Commvault Cloud. And we deliver scanning capabilities on live data, also through backup. We make sure we have data loss prevention mechanisms such as MFA, immutability, and air gapping. And obviously we provide scanning capabilities on the restoration to make sure that your data is free from malware. Matt, anything to add?
No, I don't want to steal all my own thunder, which is coming up soon. So I'll let you keep going.
Excellent, thank you. So when we talk about cyber resiliency, as you can see in the image, the attack vectors that we have to consider is way down in the stage. So when we look at cyber resiliency, it has to be way before that attack vector comes into the environment. And true cyber resiliency is always continuous. So when we start to break down what cyber resiliency is from a Commvault perspective, we always look at our risk profile, and we have various tools that allow you to understand where your data is, where your risk is, where your PII, where even your dark data is. So that's really important for everyone to kind of understand where your risk assessment is. From there, we need to make sure that we have readiness. And Commvault has lots of capabilities to talk about early warnings. We have canary files, there's anomaly detection, and there's other countermeasures that you could have in your environment to further expose, are you truly ready in the event that there's going to be a cyber resilient threat in the environment. And then obviously there's the recovery standpoint. And as we know, we need a bulletproof and frictionless recovery strategy, and we need to make sure that we can do it at scale. So how do we do that with AWS and your hybrid workloads? Well, we have a very long history of working with Amazon, and as you can see, there is a plethora of things that we've done over the last 15 years with Amazon to provide you, our joint customers, with all the solutions and coverage to make sure you're truly cyber resilient. And we're going to dive a little bit deeper into some of the characteristics of some of these things. But I want to make sure that everyone understands, there's a lot of stuff on this slide, and the most important thing you can get out is that this is the flexibility that Commvault delivers to our customers, and that we continue to innovate at a rapid scale, and we'll see some of those components in just a little bit. And as you can see in the upper right corner, we're an advanced storage APN partner, and we have lots of service-ready badges that we have across the portfolio. So you can clearly see that as we're delivering solutions to you, everything is AWS well-architected and following AWS best practices. So as I said, we're going to dive a little bit deeper. I think these are pretty much table stakes for most of our folks in this particular space. There's compute, there's containers, there's databases. But one of the things that Commvault does a little bit differently is when we're protecting EC2 instances, we understand that it's more than just EC2 that we need to protect. So when you recover an EC2 instance that's been protected by Commvault, we put back the VPC, we put back the security configuration, we put back the tags. Because again, it's much more than just the configuration of EC2 and the EBS volume. And why that's important is we understand that folks have automation, there's Lambda functions, and there's other things that need to work with these tags and configurations. So by putting it completely back as we found it, we can make sure that we're not breaking any of those things to remain truly cyber resilient. Now, we don't just stop with backup and recovery. As you can see, we have something like the AWS Snow family, so that we do assist folks with migrating from their on-prem, maybe they have massive data sets that they need to move into the cloud. We support all the Snow family so that we can facilitate that behavior. And obviously there's all the other table stakes stuff of rehosting and replatforming, traditional workloads that are on-prem into the cloud with ease. And for customers that want a truly seamless and frictionless process, we have all of our stuff that you could buy and utilize out of AWS Marketplace. So it's very easy for you to start working with Commvault. Now, one of the more important things that I'm very proud of is that, sure, we have 15 years and we have this wide variety of things that we protect in Amazon, but we manage 1.3 exabytes of data in S3, and that's a monumental number as far as I'm concerned.
And I'm pretty sure that number is probably larger today.
Absolutely is, absolutely is. And what's interesting about this is we do it across all of the Amazon S3 standards. And before anyone says anything, I know there were some announcements this week. We'll talk about those in just a little bit. But again, across all of the different S3 storage classes. Now, with Commvault, we have some further optimizations that we provide our users. We protect our data in a proprietary format that's deduplicated, it's compressed, and it's encrypted. So you get massive storage savings with us. And because it's in our proprietary chunking format, if the data was somehow exfiltrated, you wouldn't have to worry about being exposed. And as I said, what is it without us being a launch partner for one of the new things that Amazon has released? So I'm pleased to announce that with our core product under foundational protection, we fully support Amazon S3 Express OneZone. And for those not familiar with what OneZone is, it's the high-performance single AZ storage class that allows us to deliver single-digit millisecond first byte access.
Correct.
And with Commvault, again, it's not just how we protect it. We provide you with a plethora of flexible options for taking that data out of the OneZone. We can put it into any of the standard S3 bucket classes that we have. And then in the event that you wanted to recover that, we can put it back into OneZone, or we could put it back into any of the other S3 storage classes. So really happy to see that we were able to be the launch partner for this, and folks can take advantage for their high-performant databases and applications.
Yeah, this is powering the next generation of apps, right? Because this is the primary data for modern applications, right? So it's about putting your storage and your compute in the same location, not only for performance, but reducing the cost in those configurations by making sure it's in the most efficient configuration possible. So, yeah.
Fantastic. Matt, you want to take us through NAB?
I think I will. So that's a good segue, because that's one of our Australian customers that's on a modernisation journey. But before I get started, I don't know if that translator there speaks Australian, so Mike is going to be my translator if my accent is a little too confusing. People have been giving me weird looks at the booth when I've been talking to them. So I'm here to tell you a little bit about National Australia Bank. So this is one of Australia's largest banks. They've selected AWS to modernise their application portfolio, and they have a diversified financial services portfolio that services over 10 million customers today across Australia, New Zealand. For those of you, that's Australia or New Zealand is what my accent's normally referred to, and globally. And so they're working with Commvault to improve their cyber resilience and overall security posture. That's what Mike was talking about with VPC protection. That's restoring security posture. So NAB, as we call them, back in Australia, have been on their transformation journey for a number of years, and that's starting right at the bottom of their stack. They're selecting all new services that are more resilient, more secure, more simple for their customers, so that they can deliver that same experience in the services that they're building on AWS. They were one of the first banks in Australia to select a cloud-first policy, and so they're really leading the way in the banking sector in Australia on app modernisation. You can see they're quite far along there with well over 3/4 of their apps migrated. And what made that possible was when they started migrating to AWS, or decided to, they wanted to select an enterprise backup and recovery capability that gave them cyber resilience, so backup and recovery for their apps, but more importantly, business resilience. And this was the ability to make sure that what they were protecting and how they were protecting it was compliant with both their internal and external policy, right? So I know there was a bank in Singapore recently that didn't meet that standard, and they're now having their changes frozen so that the banking regulator can be confident they can deliver their services. So they chose Commvault to perform that for their AWS and hybrid workloads, and we started building with them. So we built a multi-AZ, fault-tolerant cyber resilience platform. So remember, you're designing and building for everything fails all the time, and you want to have a plan for when it does fail. And that's what this is about. This is an active-passive configuration. It's orchestrating AWS snaps for about 5,000 EC2 instances and their associated Aurora and RDS databases. There's also a sizable portion of primary S3 app data. I'm sure when I fly back to Australia, I'm going to be talking to them about that new storage class that Mike just told you about. Backups are written in optimized S3, as Mike indicated, and they also go out to S3 object lock for those immutable copies that the regulators like so much. So what we're doing here is we're protecting their secure landing zone. We're orchestrating data from all of their member accounts into a centralized, secure shared services account, and even tiering that stuff down into Glacier as it becomes less accessed by the business. So what did that actually deliver for them? Well, fundamentally, they achieved, and this is their words, this is how they describe what they got from the Commvault solution, an enterprise capability that is servicing their system of record apps. For those of you that haven't heard that term, those are the mission critical applications that run the business. So the most critical applications received operational readiness sign-off, which is, for those of you that have ever had to go through that, it's never an easy process. It's especially hard in the financial sector. The moment they got that sign-off, there was massive adoption to the fact that we've got several petabytes of snaps being managed today, a significant amount of additional backup in S3 that's enjoying that storage savings that Mike talked about, and those storage savings go beyond just the storage cost. If you're replicating that cross-region in order to have a DR or cross-regional protection, we also save in the egress costs there as well. But the real game changer for them was this standardized enforcement of policy. They knew that with Commvault, they could deliver compliant protection, compliant to their internal policy, compliant to the regulator policy, which freed up their developers to focus on innovation for their customers. So really speeding up their developers because they didn't have to worry about dealing with all of the muck of cyber resilience and complying with all of those standards. But backup and recovery is not enough anymore. What we all know for our shared services responsibility, or our shared responsibility model, I should say, we're responsible for securing our data in the cloud. And prescriptive guidance tells us that you need preventative, detective, and responsive controls. For those of you that have been to the security sessions this week, I'm going to focus today on detective and responsive. Commvault does do preventative, but I'm limited in time, so I don't want to do everything. So detective controls, just like they sound, detect things and let you know about them. They log and alert you. And we provide that with risk analysis that finds PII and sensitive data and orphan data across your data perimeter. We have anomaly detection that looks for anomalous user activity and files across your live or production data and backup data. And we perform dynamic threat detection that looks for, unfortunately, the new wave of malware that's using AI for evil instead of good. So you've been hearing great AI stories this week. Unfortunately, if something can be used for evil, it is. And the new wave of malware is doing that. So we detect that. We detect those new strains. So as good as your detective controls are, you will need to run a recovery. And one of the things that we did for a customer recently was help them understand how to respond at scale, massively parallel restores. They wanted to understand a region-wide recovery. So we spun up 100 EC2 instances with infrastructure as code, about a terabyte of data, backed that up to S3. We then spun up 100 EC2 Graviton instances out of the spot market to restore that stuff in parallel. what was the result? About 9 minutes to restore all of that to running EC2 instances. The Graviton instances were deleted like after about 10 minutes of runtime, and it really demonstrated to the customer that they could recover at scale, reliably, fast, but using the elastic nature of EC2, the massive scalability of S3, and obviously the intelligence of Commvault orchestrating that outcome. So for those of you that don't test recovery today, there's no excuse anymore, right? This is cheap recovery. So while we're on cost savings, Commvault doesn't just save you cost in the recovery. Commvault also auto scales its own EC2 instances to perform backup, and then terminate those at the end of the backup, just the same as the restore I explained. Those instances are Graviton and Amazon Linux based for the best price performance and security that you can receive from a general purpose compute instance, and they're continually right-sized with both Commvault Analytics and AWS Compute Optimizer. Now, as Mike indicated, we can write to all storage classes all the way down to S3 Glacier Deep Archive. But if you attended Storage Day this year, you'll find that we integrated with some enhancements with S3 batch operations that lets you get that data out of Glacier faster at no additional cost. No need to pay for expedited restores or anything. You just use batch operations to perform that with Commvault, and you get instances back in 30 minutes instead of hours. Okay, so if all of this sounds like a little bit too much, and you just want to focus on what gets protected and how often, Commvault Cloud Platinum Resilience can take over that undifferentiated heavy lifting of building and maintaining a cyber resilience platform. Platinum Resilience is a fully managed cyber resilience control plane in AWS. It provides protection and threat management. It's in a siloed AWS account that we manage with a team of 24/7 security specialists that are there to help you respond to cyber events in your environment. And I'd like to say if they occur, but these days it tends to be when they occur. So what have we learned today? We've learned that modern applications are made up of lots and lots of data types. Mike showed you all the icons, or at least the icons we chose to put on the page. Commvault's breadth is much larger. If you want to know more, head to the booth and they can tell you about our cloud architecture guide, and it helps you understand how to protect all of your AWS services, or at least the ones that are writing in a format that's easily accessible. You need to actively monitor for threats in your live and backup data, because unfortunately malware lives in both of those locations. And you need to test for recovery. Don't wait until the failure event to find out that your recovery is not functioning. So, and of course you can do that at low cost now. So, okay, one more announcement. There's always new announcements at reInvent, so you always like to hold some stuff back. So for our Commvault Cloud SaaS customers, you can now start protecting your AWS workloads without having to stand up any self-managed resources. So this is a Commvault fully managed data plane that's, as I explained with NAB, is moving your data from your member accounts through to your centralized shared services account, right? So you stay in control of your data and where it lives and how it's encrypted and protected. We're just making sure that's happening to your business policy. So you can continue your learning journey today at commvault.com or in our community, but look, I'd recommend you just hit the marketplace and stand up Commvault. Commvault's available as both SaaS or self-managed if your business prefers you to self-manage your core cyber resilience function, and you can spin these up yourself in, I don't know, what, 7 minutes, Mike? I think it takes?
Less than that.
Yeah, last time I clocked it. So yeah, certainly spin one up today, start playing around with it. If you've got any follow-up questions, we're booth 1260, which is in the row just behind you at the end there. Mike and I would love to both answer your questions, but before you head over there with your hard questions, we'd love you to fill out the survey, because we always want to do better for you. And if we want to be invited back next year to teach you something new, we need to improve. Thanks for your time today, and yeah, we'll see you over at the booth.